it going, Mr. Tom Ellsworth?
Going great. Great to be here. Very, very nice. Thanks for coming all the way down to our building to do this. It's always good to be part of a podcast, especially if it's going to be helping people go further with their career, their job, or find a direction they want to point in. So thank you so much. It's always a privilege to do these.
It's an honor for me to be here because I've been watching you guys for a very long time, and being in your presence and seeing everything you've accomplished here has been extraordinary. So thank you so much for...
Well, thank you. I hope I was at a letdown seeing me live here.
So cool. I want to take some time so the audience gets to know who you are. You know, where do you come from? Who influenced you in your childhood? Walk me through that.
Wow. So how did I come to where I am today?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple chapters in there, but I'm going to tell it in such a way that maybe is instructive to the audience who may be finding their own way in their career. How's that?
Perfect.
So, you know, I go to university and I get a marketing degree. And it was at a regular state university, California State University, Northridge. And, you know, I put myself through school mostly, got some help from my parents. But my parents, we were middle class. We weren't destitute. But, you know, if I had been able to get into Harvard, I don't know who would have paid for it. It wouldn't have been us.
Taxpayers.
Yeah, that's the way it happens now. So it's like taxpayers pay later. You know, you already build up the student debt and you cry and you demonstrate. Then later, you know, a friendly president will forgive everything, and then everybody else has to pay for it.
Yes.
But don't get me going. That's not the way to do it. So I go there, I get a marketing degree, and I go out, and my first couple jobs, I got a corporate job, and I was into IBM.
Okay.
And I was in their sales organization, and they sent me to Atlanta, Georgia, from California for 6 weeks. It's a sales training. I'm going to go to IBM sales training for 6 weeks. And they scored it every day. And I just listened to what they were doing. And I was paying attention because I was scared to death. What? You know, you don't do this right, and after 2 days or 3 days, they're going to fire you? And I had that. I wasn't living in fear, but I was like, wow, I got to do this right, because I was, you know, it was very, very overwhelming. Well, I finished number one in my sales class. So I discovered that, you know, my marketing degree, which taught me nothing about sales, except that do the best job you can with every boss I had. And I regarded my professors as my managers, my bosses, my mentors. And so my first lesson there was good. So I just listened to what they told me. After IBM Sales School, I did sales programs for a small company for 2 years. And then the CFO recognized what I was doing and said, I have been recruited to be CEO of a small company, and we're going to provide components for DirecTV, which was about to launch for satellite television. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. I could work for a small company that designs these. Well, it was very small. It was only about 70 people, and about 50 of them worked in the factory putting all these things together.
Wow.
And so why me? Well, I need marketing, but you appear like you work hard. You're pretty dedicated. You do what you say you're going to do. And when necessary, you put in a few hours. I don't mean staying to midnight, but I mean, I didn't look at the clock like this at 5 o'clock and leave, you know, because I also was finding there was things I really liked about my jobs. So I then go to work there, and it did pretty well. And they were actually a small public company traded on the stock exchange.
Okay.
For people watching around the world, they were floated, as they would say, for the European exchanges. And so I just worked hard, and I made a little money on the stock, not $1 million, not $500,000, but enough that after taxes, it paid for me to get my master's degree. I got an MBA at Pepperdine, which is out there. If you've ever seen Pepperdine, it's in Malibu, California. It's a little bit different campus now, but boy, you talk about God's front yard. You know, it's just this giant grassy hill that goes down to the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
It's just phenomenal. But I got my MBA there. And I was on a dual track. If I had taken a few more courses and maybe gone another half a year or so, I could have added the JD to that. I was just focused on finishing the MBA, but I could have added the JD MBA, which is a law degree with an MBA. Well, I didn't do that, but I took a few courses. I love my business law courses. And from there, I got recruited to a large organization. From the vice president of sales way back at my first job recruited me to this other company. Now, that was the same company where the CFO had recruited me to work marketing at the little company that was making components for satellite television. So what lesson did I learn there? both of my next jobs, I didn't need a resume because my work ethic was my resume. So I worked for that company for 6 years, DirecTV launches, satellite television launching around the world. I had a great time. Then this other guy calls back, who is the, basically the CMO, chief sales officer, said, hey, and he had gotten a giant corporate job with a company called Sprint in the United States. And would you like to come here? And so we were launching across the United States. We actually were the area that launched the first Sprint market in the United States. It was kind of exciting. Wow. So did that. And after about almost 5 years there, they asked me, hey, do you want to help run a part of our corporate venture capital group? So suddenly I became effectively a venture capital investor, but on the corporate side, not like one of the partners of Silicon Valley firms, but it was meaningful. I was making decisions and, about amounts to be invested and all these things we did. So it was kind of fun. And
before you keep going, is it true that you're the founder of Unlimited Plans at Sprint or something along those lines?
Well, funny you say that. There's some people that were with me, but at Sprint, I came together, and back in the day, people probably don't remember this about mobile phones. There's a few people sitting here. Once upon a time, mobile phone, there was a peak and off peak. During the daytime hours, it cost this much. During evening hours, it cost much less per minute. And long distance, if you had to call somebody, that was per minute on top of it. And then if you weren't in your city, you were in another city some distance away, that was called roaming, and that was per minute. So you would have a peak call made at noon for 10 cents a minute, plus 5 cents because it was long distance, you're calling somewhere, actually probably plus 15 cents, and then plus 5 cents because you're not in your home area anymore. So you would add all that up and discover, wow, this is 40 cents a minute phone call, 10 minutes is going to be $4. I better, be efficient with the phone call, get my business done and get on with it. So I convinced them, because Sprint had a fiber optic backbones called the Sonnet rings. Never known what that is, but that meant that they had fiber optic basically all across the United States, very efficiently deployed, very cost efficient. They also had long distance offering. Sprint was a long distance firm, and their claim to fame was $0.10 a minute. So I said, well, gosh, if it's our network, do we really care if it's roaming? And the answer was that the cost transporting the call was very low. Not zero, but negligible. Okay, so I came up and I said, what if you could make a phone call anytime, any place, anywhere? Anytime, day or night, no peak off peak, from any place Sprint has coverage to anywhere in the continental United States. And you could do that for 15 cents a minute. And so we did that, and it was very successful at the launch in San Francisco. And so people give me credit for being the father of that, but there were some other people that were in there too. Perfect. And in case they're watching here, I'm going to name, there was a guy named Alex Batty, who was a VP of marketing. He was a sometime mentor of mine, not a full-time mentor, but I listened to him, and he seemed to care about me a little bit and would, give me a lot of encouragement. A guy named Doug Garland, who would go on to do a lot of things in venture capital. A guy named Dave McGlade. And also two other guys that I work very closely with in the same area. A guy named Dave Stevens, who's passed away by now. And a guy named Chip Graves, who was also a great mentor of mine. And so that group and a few others in there, I pushed for it, but this group supported me.
Perfect.
And if I didn't have Chip and Dave and then other Dave supporting, then Alex probably isn't going to go along with it, but we got it done. And so as it goes in corporate America, can I curse?
Please.
Okay. If you want to mess something up, do it yourself, but you want to just absolutely fuck it up, get a committee, And so likewise also takes committees to get things approved. So, but I made an impression on somebody there, and they asked me if I wanted to run the Sprint incubator, which was a little part of Sprint Venture Capital, a corporate venture capital effort. And from there, I was part of the green light of investment through the incubator on a company called Jamdat Mobile. And then that group, I didn't need a resume. They interviewed me to join their group. And there was about 3 founders and about 3 other senior executives, about 7 that were there. It was really the founding 3 joined by 4. And so it was the early 7 executives, if you want to call it that. But hats off to the guys that made that business plan. Hats off to there was a CEO that joined named Mitch Lasky, who would later go on to great success at Benchmark Capital. Bill Gurley at Benchmark had invested, in Jamdat at one point, a later stage. And so it was great to be part of that. But I didn't need a resume because they knew my reputation, and we got together, and I had a reputation for getting things done. So there's the things. Number 1, have a reputation for getting things done. Have a reputation for being a smart person in your space, for being a learner, for being adaptable, but for also having your convictions and obviously having integrity. And that's where it was. And after Jamdat Mobile, I was recruited by 2 venture capitalists to join another early startup, this time in video, that had some tough times. And I ultimately became the CEO of that as we got through some fire and brimstone and turnaround efforts. But we got it turned around and we got it sold. It wasn't a big fanfare sale, but we got it turned around and we got it sold, and that's what mattered. Wow. And so from there, I founded a company, co-founded a company, actually. It was a co-founder involved in digital publishing. Okay. And away we went. And so that was it. And so who I became today, there's a chapter in there where I then became friends with Patrick Bet-David, joined PHP. He had the vision, he had the drive, he had everything, and it was to help him build back office systems to scale the company. And I also helped bring venture capital to the company at the time it was needed to go forward. But I fancied myself, I'm going to be everybody's mentor. I want to help everybody. And through my Silicon Valley days, I was initially known as E-Tom, later known as the BizDoc, and it stuck. And so it was like, hey, BizDoc, can we help me with this and this? And my goal and my credo is to leave people better than I found them. And that's what I'm all about. So I think there's lessons in there about show what you can do, show you're dependable, reliable, a learner, and people will call you back and say, what are you doing? Are you available? And if the timing's right and it works for you, you could find yourself on a very, interesting and fun path. I've loved the ride. Some chapters have been tougher than others, but you know what? Most of those chapters had to do with markets, market conditions, economic macro conditions, or, PMF, product market fit. It wasn't quite there yet, but I've left out some of the little details in there, but that's how I got here to today. And we had the great fortune of about a year ago, Pat, secured a buyer for the insurance company, and now dedicates, a tremendous amount of his effort to what's going on at Valuetainment and Bet-David Consulting Group and the Minnect app that he conceived. And so it's all good fun, and we're going big places.
That's fantastic. So I hope you guys have a sheet of paper and taking down a lot of notes. He's giving a lot of value. One of the things I want to hit on is he mentioned during his time at university, he did not learn the actual scales of sales, right? Or marketing. He needed to go out and get these jobs and learn on the job.
Well, you knew a little bit of management on this book. You knew finance in this book. You knew marketing on this book. Yep. And so there were some practical skills, but 100%. It's more of an orientation to that. And then you treated all of your papers and your presentations as projects. And you'll find out that your first job you go into, you're going to have projects. Yep. And if you treat each one of your professors not as, oh, I hate this professor of finance, oh my gosh, oh, this is the one everybody told me not to take. Well, guess what? You're going to walk into an office, maybe it's a customer, and that person or a person like them is going to be there. And the question is, what do you do with that? You start at university making sure you can get through every class and do it in such a way that you deliver with excellence. It's training. And so you're correct. You may not learn what you're going to do in your first job, but you can sure get trained in the areas of integrity, stick-to-itiveness, focus, determination, delivering on time, and being flexible with anybody you work with, because sometimes those people aren't your choice.
I don't have to say it again because that's exactly what I wanted to say. I also want to mention that when I was in university, I actually got a job in engineering before I even had a degree, which is the power of engineering, which is why we also have a program called RoloniumUniversity where we teach you a high income skill, which is software engineering. If you want to know how to code in 6 months, go to our website. We'll teach you A through Z on how to code. Guaranteed.
What do you code in?
JavaScript, Angular, React, all JavaScript. We love JavaScript.
Okay, so you're all set for mobile applications.
Mobile applications, web applications, we're at SaaS, enterprise level software. Yes.
Yep. Well, Angular is also mobile, right?
Angular's mobile. Yep.
And and it's more than just, oh, we do native on iOS, we do native on Android, and then we do, HTML5 because it adapts to every form factor for the web. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't learn my functional skills at the university. I was learning that on the job. To Tom's credit, what I learned was dealing with difficult people, because you do find a lot of those in a college environment. You also find you find colleagues that don't put the work in on projects that you do find that as well. How do you deal with people that are on your team that aren't delivering what you're expecting? Because I know people are going to encounter that in their
What phase of my career?
Let's say starting out.
Okay.
When you're first starting, you don't really know what's going on, and someone is not pulling the weight. You don't know what to do. How do you handle something like that?
Well, because at this point in my career, and with Pat and the leadership we have here, if somebody doesn't perform here, as we say, they're going to make it to the parking lot without using the elevator. So it's like it's rather quick.
Yeah.
So early in your career, you're working with someone, say, in a department.
Yep.
And they're. Give me an example. So frame it. Early in your career, Jack, what's going on?
Let's say we're on a team together, and you've been there for a few months. I joined the team maybe a month ago, and we each have responsibilities to the same project. I am not delivering anything. You're asking me for updates. I'm not doing it. You keep doing it, but it's a group effort, right? On a project, it's a team. It's not just Tom, right? Mm-hmm. It's the team effort. How do you deal with someone that's behaving like that? How do you handle the situation?
So I have a simple formula for early in your career, and you're not the first person to ask me. My nieces ask me, people have asked me, and they say, what do I do? And I said, this is what you do. Step 1, you should get to know everybody you're working with. Have you gone to lunch just getting to know the people that are going to be on the team, see what makes them tick? And what if during that lunch you find out that, the reason they've been traveling every 2 weeks is they have to take a short plane flight because their mom's got breast cancer. You're about to find something. So the first thing is get to know your teammates. Where do they come? What school do they go to? Where are they right now? And that once you know that, you've given them the respect of getting to know them so that you don't ask them something that may be uninformed or maybe the wrong angle. Then you can have one of 3 conversations. Conversation number 1, ready? Average person, there's nothing going on in life, and they're just not pulling their weight.
Yep.
You need one of 2 answers. So let's say that's you. This is person number 1. And first thing I say is, hey, we've gotten to know each other a little bit, and we're working on this project. And if the project's going to get delivered on Friday, I really need you to do your part. Otherwise, one of us is going to have to work really, really late and get it done. Yeah. Because for me, am not going to let this project arrive on Friday and not done. We're going to get it done. But my question is, how comfortable are you with the areas you've been given? I mean, do you understand this, I assume? We haven't worked together a while, but I've gotten to know you a little bit. Okay. Do you understand what you need to deliver? Point 1, find out if they know. If they say, I really don't, I got pulled from over here a month before you even came to work here. I came from another department, and this part of marketing really isn't my expertise. I'm a digital ad buyer. I'm not a web developer. So you will suddenly find a disconnect in skills, and now you can work with your team lead and figure it out. Or you find out that the skills are there. There's nothing going on wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, sick family. You're just there. Now I can turn it and say, okay, well, I really appreciate you telling me that, because the reason I got to know you is I really wanted to understand. But what you're telling me here is that you've got this under control and you can deliver it. It feels like we're a little behind. Can you commit to me just as your teammate? I'm not your boss. I'll commit to you that I'm going to have everything done Thursday afternoon so we could check it out, turn it in for Friday. If you'll commit to me, can we commit that to each other? Because we both work for this manager, but I'm going to commit to you to give you my best. Perfect. Will you give me your best? And as you can see, you have those conversations. Now, the conversation is going to be completely different if they're out of town every 2 weeks because this is the last 2 months for their mom or something.
Yeah.
Then I've got all kinds of sympathy that says, wait a minute, should you be taking like 4-week leave of absence? Why don't you talk to the owner and do that? You're only going to lose your mom once. So step one, get to know them and find out if there's anything below the surface. Step two, find out if they really know how to deliver what they're supposed to deliver. Engage your response accordingly.
Perfect. Hope everyone's taking notes. I want to jump to a video you did, I think, a few days ago.
Can you get to one last part?
For sure.
Okay. So the last part, if they don't deliver, and you have the conversation together, you say, I committed to you mine. I'm incredibly disappointed you didn't deliver it. We're both on the hook and we're asked about it. You know what? You're putting me in a position to simply tell the truth. Not, I'm going to tell the boss on you. No, look, we didn't get it delivered. We committed to each other. You're putting us both into a position, putting me in a position to have to tell, our team lead the truth.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. Those conversations might be a little uncomfortable, but they have to be done.
There's a great book, Crucial Conversations and Getting to Yes. Getting to Yes and Crucial Conversations. Books I've already given to younger people, godson, goddaughter kind of thing. Nice. People coming out of university, I've already passed those books out.
Perfect. I actually have 3 books. I'll see what's your favorite 3 books, and I'll tell you mine real quick here. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
Great.
Fantastic book. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's, for me, changed my point of view on the power of my mental, and The Power of Imagination by Neville Goddard. Have you heard of that person before? The Power of Imagination? No. I recommend you read that book. It shows you what you declare and what you speak into existence can actually become true. So it's 3 fantastic books. How about yourself? What are your top 3 books that you kind of like?
I have to say 3 books. Yeah. It's up to put 3 books there. Yeah. Obviously, you have faith orientations like the Bible.
Yes.
You read Psalms and Proverbs. There's a lot of rich stuff that just applies to human nature for 100%. 50 centuries, So that's always there. But my books always evolve with what I'm reading, and I'll read a new book. So I would say one of my favorite books is going to be the next book. Okay. Because I'm always committed. It's not called that. It's just the next book.
The next book.
Because
the next book. Okay,
because I'm anticipating learning something really great. And so because once you start reading something that's really interesting, you're like, wow. For instance, I read Walter Isaacson's biography of Elon Musk, and it not many next books hit me like that, but it was great. And so it's on my list right now, and I'm re-listening it on audiobook, and just really tremendous. So there's a perfect example of the next book. But there's a couple other in there that I really, really like. And if it's early in your career, I'm going to break them into chapters, please. If it's early in your career, I recommend the 1 Minute Manager a lot. It's such a basic book, and for people just starting out, because what you're describing to people, I love the 1 Minute Manager. I love a book called Fish that was also written for people just coming out of university. And then, what's also interesting is I like, books that have kind of a storyline of early stage, because that's where I was like, so I like a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and another book that goes with it called The Messy Middle. And I think they'll give you a span of kind of what gets me going.
Perfect. So I'd love to transition to actually going back into a video that you did a few days ago or a few weeks ago regarding the decline of liberal arts degrees. You remember that video you made?
Oh, I remember that.
And I actually have charts pulled from that video, and I kind of want to go a little deeper on.
I was upset.
I am too, and this is why I want to do this, because when people go into and choose topics or what degree you want to do, they kind of say, oh, psychology, oh, liberal arts degree. But there's not a lot of jobs today that reflect high income with those sort of degrees, which I think you pictured and you found these graphs.
What did you think when you went through these?
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to talk through them, and
yes,
they'll be up on screen.
Yes.
So look at it.
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing he's put up on screen is this is 4 charts that represent the change over a 20-year period in the number of degrees in the United States that they get from university in these topics. And you'll see the top left is English, and it went from 50,000 degrees to 33,000 degrees. History, from over 30,000 degrees to 21,000 degrees. Foreign languages went from 16,000 degrees to 14,000 degrees. Philosophy and religion went from 11,000, stayed at 11,000, but it dropped some and it made a comeback. So, but the whole point here was these are noble topics to study in your spare time.
There we go.
Not paying for a whole degree in them. Now, you could get an American history degree or a poli-sci degree and go into pre-law, but you better do that with the absolute conviction that you're going into law. And that could be a good start. Yep. And then what this basically is telling people is the obvious. There's not a lot of jobs for these things. And so there's not a lot of jobs for them, obviously the number of degrees is going down. So it means some people are getting smart. Not enough of them, but some people are getting smart. This next chart here shows you the same thing over 4 axes together. And you can just see the humanities is just plummeting. Yep. And you can see engineering has popped up, computer science has popped up, and math, which is always math major, it's grown as well. But math is only 3.4% of degrees, computer science 5.4%, engineering 9.4%. So you're closing in on 20% of the degrees there. That's not enough. You still have way too many degrees in other things that are not of particular use, especially if you're going to go get a student loan or something to help pay for it. Now, my favorite chart, unemployment rate by major, and this is mid-career. So this is about 15 years after you get your degree. So let's say you graduate at around 24. Yep. So you go in there at 18, you graduate at 22, 3, 24. And 15 years later, you're 35 to 40 years old. Yep. So you're approaching mid-career. And you look up at the clock and you realize that fine arts has a 12% unemployment rate and a max national average of about $58,000 a year. You will note that computer science has an unemployment rate of 3% and a salary of about $100,000 a year.
There we go.
So, as we used to say in school, if only we, the geeks, were more attractive.
I know.
If only we were the guys that, went and lifted and, everything like this. And, maybe the girls would come find us. But we would have to convince them. We'd have to have a business plan and say, and she's like, but Philippe from France, the fine arts student, he's so handsome. Okay. Hope he's got wealthy parents who leave him money because it's not going to be.
And this is true to me. I remember when I was in finishing up my education career.
Well, you're up here.
Yeah,
you're up with a CS, right?
Yes. Even while in college.
I knew I liked you. You're smart.
So while I was in college, so I got my first job right out of high school with engineering. That's why we want to teach engineering to all of you, because it's a skill that I know and we can teach that to you. Engineering is a skill that's not going to go away by AI. Maybe in 15 years, but today, AI is not at the level to code out full-on applications. They need you. Facebook and Meta needs you. Instagram needs you. Every single company in America has the engineering department in software. Build their website, build their mobile apps, build Connect, build the VT.com.
Exactly.
Those are engineers that earn good incomes.
And AI may do something, but AI is not going to come up with the innovative products of the future just out of nowhere. That'd be like saying, I'm going to get a can of chicken soup, I'm going to shake it up, and I'm going to pour it in the bowl, and then I'm going to look down there, and it's going to be a Shakespeare play. No,
It's not going to happen.
that randomization isn't going to happen. But once you start coding and once you start doing things and you decide what it is you're going to build, hey, I think the world needs a solution to do this. Now, AI can be doing a hell of a lot of coding, and a lot of things can go from that. But someone's got to conceive product market fit, market receptiveness, who is, and consumer target.
Yep.
Who's that consumer target going to be? We think people in this market, which is this big, this will have product market fit like this. That's our thesis. If we build it, they will come. I think that's going to be. AI is not going to do that. They may do some of it, some of the obvious, but it's going to take people. AI is just going to make people better.
It's going to make people better. I've tried to use ChatGPT in my day-to-day, and sometimes I get impressed, but it's not going to take over programming custom applications yet. It's going to get there, but at this time, you can use it. And even when I asked it a question, Tom, it gave me some wrong answers. So if you don't know what you're looking for, be wary of the questions you ask it, because it does slip up at times. I asked it a programming question. And
GIGO. You know what GIGO was?
Tell me.
It's what we used to talk about, early software. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So if you made some beautiful code, but it was garbage in, you're going to be garbage out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we have one last chart here in the back. Yep. So
I love this.
Yes.
This is why you got to be careful about which major you choose.
Yes.
If you go take a look down at the bottom, that's the overall inflation and U.S. CPI. So those of you around the world, that stands for Consumer Price Index in the United States. And that is basically what was inflation. And you can see sometimes there's little bumps where it's a little higher.
Yep. But
But over time, since 1980, so this is about a 50-year chart here, inflation has been kind of just nominal.
Yeah.
Not too bad. A little bit up lately. But then when you look at the other one, at inflation for college tuition and fees.
Yep.
So inflation since 1980, it's actually 40 years, not 50 years, 285%. Wow. That means something that cost $1 in 1980 is going to cost $2.85 today. Yep, that's right. Wow. I mean, that's incredible. All right, well, now let's go take education. Education is 1,246%. 1,246%. Holy moly.
yeah, it's a lot.
And so choosing the right major is important, because your family or your student loans, whatever, are going to be putting the bill here, and books are right behind them, 949%. It's the
Small discount compared to tuition, guys. So
books. They say books. Yeah, they made the books follow the tuition.
Yeah.
We've raised up the tuition like this. We raised the price of the books. You sure we can do that? Yeah, we're at the university. So you look at it, what's the price of choosing poorly? The price of choosing poorly is a god-awful cost that's sitting on your student loans out of your savings or your parents' hard-earned money that participated to help.
Which is what we want to avoid, which is why we're pushing so much thought before you take action on which degree and what major you want to take in. Because, again, I always reference myself. My school was paid by my job, right? I'm paying it out of pocket. That's a luxury that this field can offer you if you push yourself. You talked about girls, Tom, and as a man, that's very important, right? I think if that's the direction you want to head towards. I had to stop girls. I couldn't hang out, no parties. Why? So I can focus on learning the skill. So can you talk about sacrifice?
Really, that's unusual, because normally all the guys that are the comp sci majors, you don't have to intentionally stop girls. If you don't leave the computer lab, they're just not on your side of college.
100%.
They don't hang out over there. They're over at the Fine Arts Building, and they're studying Greek literature over there. And
humanities, right?
Yeah, and there was all the athletes that are studying physiotherapy.
Yeah,
and they're hanging out with them because they're big, buff, and everything like this. Yeah. Everybody over there at economics and computer science. Yeah. I don't know if you're telling me the truth. I don't know if you have to turn the switch off. They're not even there. Yeah. If somebody walks over there by mistake, and your classmates are, hey, let's go. Yeah. It's a woman. Yeah. What is she doing over here? Is she someone's sister who's lost? I will try to help her.
Yeah. 30 guys.
30 guys. Yeah. 3 of them trip over their own backpacks. And we all It's like, whoops. So yeah. So, but what you're talking about normal distractions for university.
Yeah.
So, I didn't party a lot.
You didn't party a lot.
No, when I partied, I would party, but I did not have the budget to party crazy, my parents are working about, a lot of kids are trying cocaine today. I hope you're not thinking about that. Mom, I can't afford books. How on earth am I gonna afford a rail on Saturday night? Come on, let's just be real. That was true. You barely have enough to pay for school. You definitely don't have enough to party all weekend.
Exactly. So, okay, cool. So as you know, be very smart about what this degree you want to choose. Do research, ask people, ask your pastor, ask your dad, ask your mom, ask people, get mentors to help you evolve to make a more responsible decision. I want to transition now to technology, Tom, if that's okay with you. What type of phone do you use on a daily basis? Are you an Android or?
I use an iPhone, but back several years ago, I used an Android.
Okay. And which do you prefer?
Well, it's sort of interesting. If you're a programmer, you kind of like Android because there's a bunch of things you can do on that.
Yep.
Pull code in and pull, prototypes and stuff. But now, and Apple says, well, you can also use, test flight to kind of pull things into Apple. Okay, fine. That works as well. And so I'm not really, coding in a sandbox anymore.
No worries.
So I don't think of it as that.
Yeah.
And I just think the Apple, by controlling the software and the hardware, makes a more elegant overall interface.
I can 100% agree with you. In a past interview, Patrick interviewed Marcus Brownlee. Are you familiar with? And Patrick asked him a question. Hey, do you think another company can attack Apple or Droid? Brownlee said no, because their systems are really complex and they're just too evolved, and consumers expect too much from a technology company. Do you think a startup can disrupt Apple or Google at this time?
Not Apple, and it's not about the hardware anymore. It's about the software ecosystem. How many apps do you have now? It's not a phone anymore. It's a computer. It's a port. It's a port to whatever you need. And so, if somebody's going to try and disrupt them, you got to look at everybody's phone and says, okay, I need American Express, Citibank, Progressive Insurance, Geico, American Airlines, Hertz. I like DoorDash. I want my Hulu. I got Netflix.
No.
You know what? You're going to try and disrupt that. I think good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, because what's happening is all those companies are like, Hulu's going to say, well, why do I want to make Hulu for that phone? There's 10 people.
Yeah. Yeah. Android
has like all of India.
Pretty much all the world. Yeah. I think on a global state, yeah, Android is still dominating the, so that's powerful. That you also mentioned, Tom, that you were one of the few people to go see the last interview with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And I when I heard that, I got goosebumps, because Steve Jobs influenced me heavily with what you said, his integration, his tediousness, and the font sizes of things.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel to be lucky enough to get invited, let alone being in the same space as those two leaders?
So it was kind of surreal in a couple ways. So the conference was a conference that was called the D conference.
The Wall Street Journal, right?
Yeah, Wall Street Journal, before it all spun off to do other things. And Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg were the hosts. And it started out being about 200 people, 300 people, D1, D2, D3. And at the D conference, they would bring in a lot of people. Somebody from, it was leading HBO at the time. Somebody, I remember Alan Mulally, who was at the time was CEO of Ford. A lot of people they would bring together. And it was very interesting to watch this over a 2-3 day period. At evening dinners and things like this, networking and stuff. And at this particular D conference, I talked to Jack Dorsey for about 45 minutes. And one of the things I was asking him about was basically, applications inside of Twitter. And they weren't thinking about that. They were thinking of feature enablement. And what I was asking is other things, because I was working on a project on photos, but I didn't know where it would go. But the D conference was an opportunity where everybody would talk to you for a while. No big deal. And we go into this big auditorium and everything, and there's all this, these really big black chairs. It was really kind of comfortable, and it was really well put together. And you had Steve Jobs and Bill Gates sitting right there. And it was kind of funny. They joked when they came out, where apparently Bill Gates had been a little annoyed with Steve at this particular chapter, and he said, "I will not go on stage with him, unless hell freezes over." And apparently backstage, they had agreed to come do this interview, and Steve Jobs went up to him and he says, something was said to the effect, he gave him an bottle of water, and he said, ice cold water for a day in hell, or something like that.
Yeah.
And they came out and they actually joked about it. And you could tell that there was something up with Steve. He was sick. There was something up. He was losing weight. He said, well, I've got this thing. He gave this very technical medical explanation, and we all thought, oh, okay, so he's got something going on. Well, what was really going on, unfortunately, was pancreatic cancer, and trying to get through it. And it was very, very tragic. But it was a privilege to be there. I got invited somehow, by D, and, they said, you've been invited to this, and I paid a fee and went there. So it was very humbling to be there. It was inspiring. I still have the pictures I took. I took a couple pictures, kind of fanboy status. And there was it was funny. There was a couple of people who were sitting around me, and there was a guy that, I'm not going to name names, but I will name the company. Everybody know what it is. He was running Real Networks, and he was right behind me, sitting there talking. And I remember while Steve Jobs was talking about some things that happened with Apple, things that happened early on, he's behind me and he goes, he's full of shit. Does he just make this shit up? I don't believe this. He's full of shit. And he kept saying that. And so anyway, it's the CEO of Real Networks, which I think is long gone now or something. But it was kind of funny. Not everyone was in awe. There was competitive. You have to remember, Steve was a competitor. Steve was bringing Apple back. There's a lot of things that were going on. And so I would say one thing that I learned, though, was between the two of them, Steve Jobs tightly coupled software and hardware together in a closed ecosystem to control the ultimate outcome of the experience. Bill Gates says, we're going to build an open ecosystem, and everybody's going to use Microsoft Windows open and be able to program everything on it. And as a matter of fact, if they don't want to use Microsoft Windows on their computer, we're going to go bribe somebody so that they have to. And then they ended up in antitrust court. But it was open ecosystem versus closed. And the example that Microsoft used is, go take a look at how many solution and software packages are available for Windows-based machines versus those that are available for Apple-based machines. Apple was a closed ecosystem. Guy Kawasaki had been out there evangelizing everybody. And got a company called Cirrus involved. And so it was just, kind of a humbling exercise in a closed or open ecosystem. They had the best experience on the product, but they had the least amount of really innovative software.
Perfect. Yeah.
Whereas Microsoft had everybody making it for Microsoft, and lower cost machines.
Which is why till today, a lot of enterprise are still use Windows machines, and more consumers love the Apple experience. I do want to ask you our final questions here. In an interview with Patrick, you gave 5 companies that you believe had a 10-year play. One of them was Google.
Yep.
Data. They consume everything. The second one was Uber. They're redefining cities, traffic.
And now they've gone to Uber Eats and a few other things, and they've even pulled those back. But I thought that Uber was a platform play. I never thought that it was a taxi play. I thought it was a platform play, and they did exactly what I predicted with cargo, with Uber Eats. Uber Eats hadn't even been conceived in the time of that interview we had. But they used that platform to build other services on it, and have only kept the services that have proven to be successful. So I stand by Uber.
Perfect. Patrick thought Google was going to take them up and do self-driving cars, and that hasn't happened. So Google...
Did I say that?
No, Patrick thought. He asked me, really, Tom, you think Uber is going to be a 10-year play? Because he's like, Microsoft can do it, Google can get self-driving cars, and you're like, no, but regulations and self-driving cars, they had a lot of issues with the software. It hit people, so that self-driving kind of went away in that kind of space. But I'm glad you still with Uber. So you still like Uber at this time.
Well, Uber, I think, has now matured into this multi-product company.
Yeah.
You know, if I was going to be talking about it right now, I would have Microsoft on that list.
Okay.
I mean, they own AI, now they own LinkedIn, and they own ChatGPT.
That's right.
So, okay. So there's your AI play, there's your back-end software play, there's the best social network out there on dollar per minute and dollar per subscription, LinkedIn.
Yep.
Come on. So I would still have Google out there because they're going to figure it out and they've got more money than God.
Yeah.
And, so what else do I have on there?
You have Elon Musk, parentheses Tesla, but you said more Musk than any of them.
What did I say?
So Elon Musk. You had Tesla as a company.
Yeah.
You said whatever Elon Musk does, I'm sure because his ethics and what he does, he always drives and.
Okay, I go with that.
Yeah, that's true. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, of course.
Yeah, now they've got the largest back end.
And AWS, Amazon Web Services. Every online education was your last one. Amazon Web Services is almost dominating and beating out a lot of the originals like Microsoft.
I think I may have missed online education.
Yeah.
It really hasn't emerged the way it should.
And I was I wanted to ask you about
the need is still there, but it still hasn't scaled to the moon.
Yeah.
To Mars, if you're Elon Musk.
So that's why, and just to take it this way, if you want to learn a skill, Tom mentioned this video with Patrick, you might have to wear different hats, you might have to do a lot of different things because you don't know where the conditions are going. But we want to teach you how to code, and Rolonium University is going to do that in 6 months. We're offering a program in 6 months. We teach you A to Z JavaScript front-end engineering for you to get a job earning no less than $35,000. That's the starting position for an engineer, $35,000. So if you want to change your life in coding, you want to go into the world, visit our website. Tom, it's been a pleasure. I hope everyone has gotten value. We're in the Valuetainment office. I'm sure they did. Tom, thank you so much for being a guest on Rolonium University at your studio. And
There we go.
and it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. Whatever you do, wherever you go, right? Valuetainment and all the content we offer and what you're offering is tremendous. I hope we left you better than we found you. And if you take some nuggets out of this that may guide you wherever you want to go, that may take you to new places, or may help you redirect from maybe some dead-end streets that, given the economy, given your skills, or whatever happens, maybe you get directed to avoid a side street in your career that was going to be, unprofitable for too long. And you notice it earlier and you're able to steer away from it. Yep. But thank you again so much. And thank you again so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.